Welcome back to another edition of Movie Reviews Nobody Asked For, a Brash Plus exclusive. Brash Plus, the hottest content at the highest prices. We're joined by a special guest today, and we are discussing the movie Oppenheimer, the story of American scientist Robert J. Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atomic bomb, starring Cillian Murphy. Is it Cillian Murphy?
I always say
Cillian
Killian.
Murphy.
It's Cillian
Murphy.
like the
It
beer?
is Killian. Yeah, like the beer.
All right.
Because
Cool.
he's Irish, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, with a K then, Killian.
Okay,
Killian
all right,
Murphy,
all right.
Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, written by Christopher Nolan, Kai Bird, and Martin Sherwin, directed by Christopher Nolan. The release date was July 21st, 2023. It has been nominated for 13 Oscars, which will take place March 10th.
It's a good
They
day.
recently won 7 awards at BAFTA, the British equivalent, including Best Picture. It has an 8.4 out of 10 star rating on IMDb, a 3.6 out of 5 star rating on Google. It's 93% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with an 89% audience rating. Some quick reviews here from the internet. Rika Bailey 18014 says, absolute tedious shite. Don't bother. Tiberia Lungu says, is this movie made by TikTok? This movie got the ADHD.
Whatever that means.
Land O. Larson says, please don't let Christopher Nolan make any more movies. And Harvey C., who gave half a star on Rotten Tomatoes, says, I am a Japanese citizen. So with all that said,
Wow.
we're going to give our own opinions today. And as you've probably noticed, we have a very special guest. Brandon, if you want to do the honors of introducing our very good friend here.
We have to welcome him back to the show. He's normally here as our NHL expert, but Daniel Johnson is back once again. He is our movie aficionado. He knows movies better than you and I, Josh. So we had to bring in a real expert, and he's been chomping at the bit to be talking about some Oppenheimer for quite some time because
Yep.
as everybody knows, it's a Brash Sports or Brash fan in general. We like to do things nice and late. We wait until all the it's not a fad anymore. It's run its course. I mean, we're talking July 21st, 2023, and here we are in February of 2024, and we're doing our first official review. But hey, sometimes it takes some time. But for me, it was because I was waiting for it to drop on a streaming
That's
service.
what I was going to say. Most
Thank you,
importantly,
Peacock. Thank you.
Most importantly, it was free. That was the
No.
biggest factor for us here.
So let's without further ado, let's let Daniel get right into it. Daniel, what do you got to say about Oppenheimer? What is your take, my friend? And I know you've been waiting. You've been waiting in the wings for quite some time. So let's hear it.
You bought that
Yeah.
giant poster to put behind you. So
Yeah,
clearly
it was
you've been
very
excited.
expensive.
Oppenheimer fathead.
As the great John Hammond once said, I spared no expense, you know. So
I love it. I'm actually envious. I got to figure out how I can do some cool shit like that in my studio. But keep going.
I don't know. It's kind of creepy to see Cillian Murphy, over my shoulder, looking.
He's
in
breathing
horror.
underneath.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's Sicilian Murphy, isn't it?
Yeah. By
You
the
know
way,
what's funny? I pronounced it that way until I saw this movie and was watching some interview, and they said his name Killian, and I'm like, oh, I've been saying it wrong all these years.
Yeah. Again, there's just more proof that I am not a movie guy.
Yeah.
I didn't
The
even
guy
look it up before I ran through this shit.
Before this movie came out, I knew him as the guy from 28 Days Later. So it shows how much of a movie guy I am. But
He is
You know,
in that,
that or the Scarecrow in the Batman Begins.
absolutely.
Yeah, which he was
Christopher
fantastic
Nolan
in
loves
that.
him. Yeah.
Yes, dude. That's where I saw him.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes. Cillian Murphy and Christopher Nolan have done several films together, so it's not surprising that he picked him for this role, but this is pretty much the role of a lifetime for him. I don't see him losing the Oscar. I don't see him losing a bunch. I mean, he just won the BAFTA for Best Actor. It is an incredible performance by him, and really does put you in the shoes of Robert Oppenheimer and what he had to endure the entire process of the Manhattan Project. And really after that, the aftermath of that is what the kind of like the second half of the movie is about, is him basically trying to kind of rein in the terror that he has unleashed with the successful test of the atomic bomb. And it is based on a book that I'm actually still reading. It is a very thick book called American Prometheus, and that was actually the original title of the film. But Christopher Nolan changed it, and I think that was a good move because he wanted people to relate to who the movie was centered on and not go, "Who the hell is American Prometheus?" No one would have known unless they had really done their homework on the subject. So, but this film, was shot in IMAX. It's meant to be viewed in IMAX, just for the sound quality alone. It's the loudest film I've ever watched in a theater. It was just very intimidating, and that's really the reason that the sound is the way it is it wants to be intimidating. It wants to be scary. It wants to just show the horrors of the nuclear fallout, basically, from all this that was going on. But one of the fascinating things Christopher Nolan did was he wanted the scenes. There are scenes in the movie where there's a congressional hearing to confirm Strauss, the senator, to be in Eisenhower's cabinet, and Strauss, and so he wanted it to be with that, and also the interrogation of Robert Oppenheimer. He wanted those in black and white, and it was to make a point to kind of give a transition from the Manhattan Project to kind of the political side of it. And he said, "Well, let's just shoot it in IMAX." And they're like, "Christopher, there's no technology that has black and white film for IMAX." So he created it.
That's sick.
He created black and white film for IMAX.
It's a pioneer.
So now future projects, if they wanted to do that, they have the option to do that. So it's just the kind of filmmaker. He is very much an old school filmmaker in the way he still uses, film for all of his movies. He doesn't use digital of anything. CGI, I think he barely used a little bit in this film. Most of it is real effects. So he's really one of the last authentic filmmakers out there, and this is definitely kind of the pinnacle of his career. It really is. To me, it's the best film he's made to date.
I was going to ask that. Ask that. Okay.
Yeah. He's made some great films. Dark Knight to me is a perfect comic book movie. Probably, it's one that, many other comic book movies have tried to emulate and they still haven't done it yet. But it's just one of those movies. He's been developing this for so long. It's just great to see him start to be rewarded for it. And, most likely he can write his speech now for Best Director, Best Picture. They're running laps around everybody at the awards right now. Robert Downey Jr. gives an incredible performance as Louis Strauss. And, Cillian Murphy gives a career-defining performance as Oppenheimer. So, it's just, the subject matter is definitely very difficult to kind of grasp for some people. And I think Christopher Nolan did a good job at explaining it to where a regular audience can understand what he's talking about. It wasn't all in scientific gobbledygook. It was, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is where we're doing it, and he really kind of, you're almost like a fly on the wall during the entire Manhattan Project sequence, where you see the test be successful. And just like I said, to me, it was a really good movie. It's 3 hours long. It's a long movie. But the way Christopher Nolan wanted to do it, he wanted to make it he said there's 3 parts to the film. There's Oppenheimer's college education and development as a scientist, kind of how did he get to be where he was to spearhead the Manhattan Project. The second thing is all about the Manhattan Project and at Los Alamos. And then the last one is the committee hearing for Oppenheimer and Lewis Strauss's Senate confirmation hearing. So he kind of breaks it up a little bit and he kind of jumps back and forth. So yeah, ADHD, you can say that because he does. He goes from one section to another and it just jumps back and forth. But to me, that works. At the end of the day, it works because everything's explained. By the end of the movie, everything is done. Everything is completed. And, he made a hell of a film.
Speaking as a novice to the world of movie criticism, I will say I had a hard time with that. It was bouncing around all over the place, and I'm just being completely honest. I had a hard time keeping up, and I told Josh earlier I made sure there were no side distractions. I wasn't preoccupied with anything else. I was fully focused on the movie, but I wasn't ready for it to be bouncing around all over the place. Should have done, to those who have not seen this movie yet, if there's anyone left, the amount of people that haven't seen this movie, the same amount of people that survive an atomic bomb blast. Do yourself a favor, do a little homework, read up on it a little bit before you go into it. That would be my piece of advice. That way it helps you, it educates you.
Even just a Wikipedia article is fine, just to get a basic knowledge of what the subject is about. But yeah,
it bounced around a lot, but for a 3-hour movie, I never felt disengaged from it.
No,
and I was confused for the first 30 minutes. I could tell that they were in multiple timelines, and I was trying to piece together where they were and what the point of each one was and how they stacked and where they were in order. But yeah, by the end, I totally got it and it all made sense. But I did have to kind of go back and go, oh, that's who that was, or that's why they showed that. And then I watched it again the next night, 2 nights in a row of this movie, by the way. It's a lot. I would give yourself a week to process and then watch it again if you're going to do twice. But the second time I watched it from the jump, understanding who the people were and why they were there and the layers of the timelines made it so much easier to grasp. And I really liked the second time through, I was blown away by how good the movie was. The first time I was like, that's a good movie. I liked it a lot, but it was just a lot to take in. The second time I watched it, the credits ran and I was like, this is an all-time movie in my opinion.
To me, the end of the movie, no matter how many times I see it, it sticks with you.
Yes.
I remember I remember going the first time to see it, and I just sat there stunned. I could not get up. Just to give a little bit of background as to what I'm talking about.
I was going to ask. So thanks, Daniel. Jump right in.
There's a scene at the end where Oppenheimer and Einstein are standing there at a pond, and Einstein's walking away from Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer says, Albert, we thought we might start a chain reaction that could destroy the world. And then he goes, I remember it well. What of it? And Oppenheimer goes, I believe we did.
Yeah.
And just that
was a goosebumps moment. That was
for sure.
That line, it gets me every time because then Christopher Nolan goes into that huge orchestration of the fallout from the successful tests that Oppenheimer created in the Manhattan Project. And it just floors you. By the end of the movie, you're just like, we're one crazy dictator away from nuclear destruction. That's chilling to think
Any
of.
day now, boys.
We could. The button can be pressed at
Yeah.
any time. That's what the ending is telling us. And we have a couple crazy leaders right now that have access to nuclear weapons. So you never know. I mean, but it is, that ending was just, I mean,
Powerful.
left me speechless. It really did.
Well, I loved so many parts of the movie, and yeah, that part was definitely goosebumps. But dude, the way that he put everything together, I thought the music was awesome throughout.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The
It was
IMAX,
nonstop.
it
The
was
music was
nonstop.
going nonstop.
It was
the
going
orchestra,
nonstop.
full blast.
Except for when they tested the bomb and it went silent,
Oh,
and all
that
you could
right.
hear was
yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I was
That
like,
was pretty powerful.
I just got goosebumps thinking about it right now. It was like such a powerful moment because you felt all of like the emotion of doing it and all of the hard work that they've put in, just all culminating at that scene. And the bomb was really like just such a metaphor for everything they'd done up to that point, but also chilling, knowing that they were the first ones to see it and knowing how powerful it was and that it was going to get unleashed on the world. You could just feel all of that without them saying a fucking word or without any music or anything. Like such a great scene and so well done. But there were so many scenes. Like I could probably talk for fucking hours about it. I really, really loved it.
Yeah. No, it was, and of course there's some direct, Christopher Nolan took some artistic liberties with it, like Oppenheimer, having an affair, that.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Was that, because they spent some time on that, Daniel. I mean,
they do.
Granted, I wasn't against seeing his girlfriend naked as many times as I did in this movie. I mean, she wasn't difficult to look at. But
yeah,
they went heavy on it, and he was so heartbroken when she, I guess,
and then
killed herself, because it kind of went both ways. Did she kill herself,
committed,
or was she
committed
murdered?
suicide? She committed suicide.
They kind of left the window open.
And I just love the reaction of his wife, basically saying, "Snap out of it." I mean, that was like, whoa.
So I think that the reason he was so upset by it was because he might have gotten word that she committed suicide, but I think in his mind,
that's what it is.
Someone
they showed that clip where there was like a hand.
They showed the clip with the hand, but then they showed a clip without the hand, and so in his mind, it could have gone either way. And he knows he's at fault for sure for one of them, and partially at fault for the other. Yeah. So that's why it was just eating him up so much.
And I do think it was bothering Emily Blunt, Daniel, because when she was there, when he was getting roasted.
Oh, I know. And she heard,
she was envisioning, her like sitting on his lap, pretty much going to town. That was an interesting little scene right there.
That is an interesting artistic interpretation. Yes.
Yeah. That's one way of putting it.
But I didn't have a problem with any of that, because if I'm currently reading the American Prometheus, and that is there is a section of that book that talks about this and about how Robert Oppenheimer cheated on his wife multiple times, not just the one time. He did it multiple times, and the fact that she stayed with him, more power to her. But but he was definitely, he loved the ladies. I mean, that's
a rock star scientist.
Yeah.
Before Neil deGrasse Tyson, there was J. Robert Oppenheimer. Everybody.
Well, but sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
No, go ahead.
You're running the show.
Go ahead.
Buddy. All right. So one thing that I mean the emotion behind his character was displayed so well throughout, because you could tell he was egotistical. You could also tell that he had so many internal conflicts with all of the things going on, and seeing him deal with those things and like wanting all the fame from doing this thing, but then the regret of doing it and realizing, oh shit, what have I done? And trying to go back and correct it. Right. And he was an open-minded guy. So he always wanted to learn about these different political philosophies, right? He never signed up for communism, but he was interested in it. He wanted to learn about it. And of course, all that shit, bit him in the ass. But showing the internal struggles that he had, I just thought they did a masterful job of conveying all that without without rubbing your face in it. It was like very subtle touches to all of these, complex different personalities that he had, and having to kind of navigate through them. Dude, so good. Just so good.
Yeah, I mean, the scene for me though also is right after they see that the atomic bomb is a success, and that all that hard work that the scientists did, all those hours spent on it, were successful. You can see, like, for a split second, Oppenheimer's elated. He's just like, yeah, we did it. This is awesome. We beat the Nazis. We beat the Russians. And it was literally a split second, because right after that, you see the horror in his eyes. I mean, Cillian Murphy does a great job showing emotion and really not doing a whole lot. I know. And because when he's at that rally and everybody's cheering, and he has this look of horror on his face, like, what have I done? I have opened Pandora's box on nuclear, on the nuclear bomb. And he made it a point after that. After that, the U.S. government took control of the bombs that they built. And that one scene where he's standing there with another scientist saying, why do they have two? Why do they have both of them? And, we're going to drop it twice, in Japan. And he's like, we only need to do once. He said one time is you only need one time to show the power of the nuclear bomb. And they'll surrender. And they go,
we have two of them.
No, they said one is to show the consequence of it. The additional one is to show we can make more of these.
And we'll do it again.
We'll do it again.
Because we want to show that what we have, and we want to show that we're willing to do it more than once. Right. Which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah. Tell Kitty to bring the sheets in was probably my favorite line. That was badass. Like,
that was good.
Tell Kitty to bring the sheets in. Like, she knew what that meant. That was another goosebumps moment for me. And I just the hair on my arms stood up. Like, it was after all that work, and then and his wife's sticking by his side. I mean, it was just that realization kicked in that, oh my God, we're gonna win World War II.
Yeah, but look at all the actors that were in that movie too. I mean,
the cast was phenomenal.
Like Josh Hartnett, he still acts. He was good in it though. He was good. And you had, it's a who's who. I mean, Rami Malek was in it for what? 5 minutes?
I loved how he always had the clipboard and get me slapped out of his hand.
This is how loyal Christopher Nolan. It's almost like Wes Anderson. There's directors that have loyalty of these actors, and Christopher Nolan's one of those directors. Except for Leonardo DiCaprio, he said he'd never work with him again. But
okay. Really,
Inception, that's a whole nother topic, because apparently
that was a great movie. But whatever.
Well, apparently Leonardo DiCaprio made Christopher Nolan highly nervous the entire movie. So we can talk about that later.
Save it for the other podcast.
There were a lot of 19-year-old girls on set. So
he couldn't stay
very
focused.
Nervous. Yeah.
He was already eyeing out his next girlfriend.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's Oppenheimer's a great movie. Now, one thing that's interesting to me is I saw the Peacock got it, and I said, you know what? I have a Dolby Atmos surround sound system. I have a 4K Ultra Blu-ray player, but I'm going to see how the streaming sounds versus the 4K Ultra Blu-ray. And there is no comparison.
Really?
No comparison. The 4K Ultra Blu-ray, it exceeds it in every aspect.
Are you inviting us over, Daniel? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
exactly.
trying to do?
Absolutely,
That's an official invite.
absolutely,
All right.
Watch
absolutely.
party.
Because I bought Oppenheimer on 4K Ultra Blu-ray when it came out last year, and I think it was November, December time. And the sound is incredible on that. I was a little disappointed in the sound. I don't know how you thought of it, Brandon, because you watched it on Peacock.
I watched it on Peacock, and when you mentioned the sound earlier, I was gonna say, I was nodding vigorously over here like a maniac, but I was gonna say that, the sound. I had my surround sound. Now I don't have my crazy ultra 4K. I have my run of the mill, type surround sound system and picture, but the sound, man, at some point, like, it would be like normal, and then all of a sudden it would just pick up, and I could feel it in the ground, and I'm like, oh shit, I live in a townhouse. So I'm like, I gotta turn this shit down a little bit. My neighbors gonna be like, what in the hell is that guy watching over there?
I will say this: when I played the 4K Ultra Blu-ray, my son was playing in the floor. He's 13 months old right now, and it scared the hell out of him.
Yeah, no.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to turn this off.
It was getting my dog, he was getting up and just pacing around. He's like, okay, what's going on? Should I be worried?
So I streamed it on Peacock as well, and all I have is like a little sound bar. And yeah, the sound was awesome, but I am a subtitles guy. I turned the subtitles on the first time I watched it because I was losing track of some of the dialogue because the music was overpowering.
Right. And Christopher
Nolan, I'll do that next time.
Christopher Nolan's had that problem in the last 3 movies he's done. Tenet was even worse than this one.
Oh, never saw it.
I tried watching Tenet. That one, again,
it makes your brain hurt. That's for sure. It makes your brain hurt. Yeah, I love John David Washington. The son of Denzel Washington. I think he's going to be a hell of an actor. But yeah, the sound muffles the dialogue sometimes. I've noticed. This one not so much, but like I said, his last 3 have been. I think it was Dunkirk, Tenet, and then this one. Yeah,
I never saw Dunkirk either. That one was high on my list.
That is on Peacock also, I believe.
It is, and it's also on Disney Plus. There's the plug. They actually paid us for that plug.
About time.
I wanted to bring up because, of course, cinematography. $100 million budget for a Christopher Nolan movie. You're expecting, at nothing but the best. The casting, unbelievable. Nothing really beats it. I mean, they even threw Benny Safdie in there. The guy from The Curse. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second, where have I seen that guy? So yeah, they had everybody, in the movie. They put all the budget into the picture and into the sound. But I mean, when you talk about the storytelling, I mean, how would you judge that, Daniel? The overall storytelling, the first time you watched it, what did you think?
See, the jumping around, I actually was okay following that, but part of it is if you've seen a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, like I think I've seen every single Christopher Nolan movie he's ever made. There are certain styles and tics that he does in all of his movies that you kind of understand what he's doing, and you get used to those things. And I think that's probably why I followed it so much, so well the first time. But I mean, it's a movie that to me is an incredibly engaging subject because a lot of people know that we made the atomic bomb, but they don't know what was behind it. And I thought when I saw the first trailer for this movie, that's what really hooked me in. Is like, okay, this is interesting. How did this happen? And Oppenheimer was not a perfect person. I mean, he had a spy at Los Alamos that divulged secrets to the Russians and gave the Russians a head start. And Oppenheimer was very open with everybody. which you kind of watch the movie and you're seeing him like be open with everybody on having open discussions about that have
Oppenheimer.
top secret clearance, and he's talking out in the open in a cafeteria, and it's like, what?
Well,
So I
the
thought
reason I
that
bring
was,
it up, I just
mhm.
want to ask you, because I haven't gotten your take on this yet. He tried to kill his professor like at the beginning of the movie.
That is a
What
myth.
in the hell was that all about?
That was a
Why even
creative.
put that in there? It was,
I don't understand. Yeah, Christopher Nolan made that choice. That is not a true, because Oppenheimer's estate even responded to that when the movie first came out and they saw that opening scene. They're like, "Yeah, that's bullshit. That didn't happen." Whether it was in his mind that maybe, okay, I want to do that. That might be what happened, or maybe he mentioned it to the biographer. I don't know, but
that is so strange.
but it did not happen.
I thought that was
in
going to
real
go
life.
somewhere, and then later he just mentions
Well,
it to his girlfriend,
Well, no,
and
he
says,
grabbed
"Yeah,
the
I feel
apple.
really bad. I tried to kill my professor one
Yeah.
time, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm naked. Why are you even talking about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, good point." But I was like, "Yeah, well, like that's the only other time they bring it up." I'm like, that was just such a weird part of the movie. Like they could have done without
Well,
that. Is all I'm saying.
I knew why they put it in, because he wanted to go see Niels Bohr, and his professor's like, clean your shit up, and once you clean it up, maybe you can go. And so he got mad because he had to stay behind,
He
and
got
everyone
really
else.
mad. You want to murder
Yeah.
him?
I thought that they threw that in there just to show that he's capable of
Oh, yeah.
doing anything,
Yeah.
but also has enough morality to go back and say, I fucked up, I made a mistake, I'm going to clean that mess
So it was
up.
a precursor. It was a
Right.
I think it was.
precursor
I
to
think it was
him creating the atomic bomb.
little
There you go.
foreshadowing. Yeah,
That was the atomic bomb before the atomic bomb.
Well, I think I would like to talk about Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss. I mean,
Okay.
he was
what
awesome, right?
What a performance! I mean, he will finally get his Oscar. He should have probably gotten it for Chaplin back in the day, but
Never saw
he's
it.
oh, that's Charlie Chaplin.
No surprise.
Yeah, he was incredible in that movie, but yeah, Robert Downey Jr.'s, I would say he can get his speech ready, he's going to do it. But Louis Strauss was a very petty person. And I say that because they show that one hearing where Oppenheimer is up in front of the hearing, and Strauss is sitting there. And then Oppenheimer basically embarrasses the hell out of Strauss at this hearing. And that's all it took for Strauss to try to blackball him. That's it. It was just the one insult and an embarrassing moment.
He also thought that he was talking shit to Einstein about him.
Well, yeah.
And it turned out he wasn't.
Yeah, and how full of himself was he to think,
exactly.
what are they talking about? And it's like, they weren't even talking about you. They were talking about nuclear destruction.
He was just extremely insecure is the way they were portraying it, right?
But
right.
And I think that was a great take on the state of politics in general. Like that's how most politicians are. They're super vindictive and shallow, and always think everything's about themselves.
I believe he was the first senator not confirmed in a cabinet. There have been others since.
A big story. Okay.
There have been others since, but yeah, he thought it was a slam dunk. And then, what if they mention Oppenheimer? And once they started mentioning Oppenheimer, the ship was sinking. I mean, he did not have a leg to stand on at that point. And the fact that they reinstated Oppenheimer's clearance 50 years later, I think actually more longer than that. 2020 is when they reinstated his clearance, and he has been dead for decades. And I'm like, what good does that do? What good does that do? I mean, but yeah, they reinstated his clearance because it was unfair what they did. I mean, that was McCarthyism. That was the height of McCarthyism.
Exactly.
And a lot of unfortunate innocent people lost a whole bunch of stuff.
They stripped him of the clearance because he was just questioning why and moving forward with the project and making a bigger weapon, or I mean,
Well,
that's what I was taking from it. Or
they were that is probably the main reason, but they were
Yeah.
using the fact that he used to associate with communists as a crutch, because
Right.
during that time, like the Cold War was picking up, and it
but
just
that was
Americans went,
that was the excuse to remove the clearance from him.
right,
They-
but
Right. But
which-
also Strauss stacks the deck by having
Right.
a three person panel vote for whether he gets his clearance or not, and he's already stacked the deck against him. What
Right.
was interesting is during that hearing, he convinces one of those guys to say, "You know what? I think you should have your clearance." And it was the older guy that probably isn't as involved in politics as the other two.
yeah, I
But
thought that was cool.
yeah.
okay. And
My least favorite scene in the movie happened there too, though.
Mhm.
When they brought Kitty into that room to
Yeah.
testify, and you had what was it, Senator Rob or whatever, the guy who was doing the
yeah,
prosecuting.
he's a great actor, by the way.
Great actor.
Mhm.
He killed that role.
He
And
did.
he
Yeah.
was such a hard ass with Garrison and Oppenheimer and all of the witnesses that came in. And then as soon as Kitty came in, he like forgot how to fucking do his job.
Roger.
Roger
Rob.
Rob. That's the one.
Yeah.
And they made it seem like she fucking schooled his ass. But if you watch it back, she didn't say anything profound. She didn't make any good points. She was like, just couldn't remember. Oh, was it 16 years ago, 17, 18 years ago? And he was just like, oh, spaghetti.
Well,
I don't
because
know.
no, she was fighting fire with fire. They were
Yeah.
being vague with them,
Right.
and then therefore she was being vague back. You know,
Yeah, but
and
he
Well,
but he
that's what the
hammered
attorney found out early on. You know, like
Yeah,
you're,
the-
you're in a
every-
kangaroo court. There's no chance. You know,
but
Right,
he hammered
right.
every single person and then let off the gas for her.
Right.
And
Mhm.
like it was almost like
that's
they
a
were
good
trying
point.
to
Yeah,
tee it up to, like she came in and fucking saved the day,
you know,
which was kind of
there's a lot we
annoying.
can say about that, Jazz.
Yeah, I
and,
know.
and
Like, come on.
there are some critics, some people that say that we don't need to show this part of the film, but you know, I think it is an important piece to kind of give you the whole context of everything, especially with what Robert Oppenheimer was trying to do. After the atomic bomb was a success, he wanted to regulate it. That was his big main objective was, let's get some regulation on this before it becomes out of control. And he even, in that scene where he goes to Truman and Truman basically just says, Truman has no sympathy for him and
Called him
just
a crybaby.
yeah, acts like an arrogant ass and, says, well, I'm the one that made the decision, and it's like, okay, Truman, pat yourself on the back. But, I thought that was an interesting scene too. And Gary Oldman, man, he can play anybody, I tell you,
I love Gary Oldman.
he's so
dude,
good.
he's so good in everything.
So good. I didn't even know it was Gary Oldman until after, and I looked it up. I'm like, what? Yeah, that's how good he
It's
was.
amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, just like I said, there's so many things you could talk for days about this movie. I mean, it really, there's a lot of content in it. I mean, he only scratches the surface of the book, American Prometheus. It is very, very detailed. It took, I think it was there's three authors that kind of gathered all this information, talked to Oppenheimer's family, talked to his friends, talked to his colleagues, talked to people on the Manhattan Project. So it was a very thorough biography on him. And you could have made a mini series on this, which they might, you never know, but
Yeah.
but I know not.
Coming next to Peacock, little Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer as a little tiny child.
The Oppenheimer that could, yes.
Oppenheimer, the early years.
Yeah, Oppenheimer, the early years. I like that.
Well, is there anything else you guys want to add before we rate it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, if Daniel.
So what is the brash scale?
Well, I was thinking we would do. I don't remember what we did last time, Josh. It's been a while, but I was thinking we could go. Everybody normally goes by 5 stars, right? Like one to 5.
That's what we did. That's what we did last time.
So we'll go 1 to 5. So
and you can have decimal points, by the way. You can have
Well, 0.5.
Like Dave Portnoy and the pizza,
100%, just like that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it has to be 0.5. Do whatever number
Oh,
feels right.
wow. All
Yeah.
right. Oof.
Yeah.
That makes it really difficult. But just to be fair, I am going off of seeing the movie one time. Okay. Josh twice. Daniel, you said twice?
3 times.
Trice. Okay. Daniel Trice. Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's fair to, give our little rating if you guys are ready.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
We
Daniel,
can-
you're a guest. You're a guest of honor. So why don't you lead us off? Out of 5 stars, what's your takeaway from this?
I think it's 5, and I wanted to go for. I was thinking 4.75, 4.5, but if you look at the movie as a whole, it is just, to me, it's a masterpiece of cinema. I mean, and again, it's one of the last great filmmakers that actually, he has the passion to make these films. And just to, Christopher Nolan said this movie was such an undertaking, and it took him about 10-15 years to make this film, to get it off the ground, to get the right people involved. He's going to go back to summer blockbusters for a while because he said it's just so draining to do a movie like this. And he just can't see himself doing movies like this constantly. He's going to have to space it out if he does another one like this. But, Christopher Nolan was originally known as the summer blockbuster director, and he's going to kind of go back to that. But to me, this was just a phenomenal accomplishment. And to see it in IMAX the way it's meant to be seen is breathtaking. Just absolutely awesome. Breathtaking. Yeah.
Quick question for you, Daniel, because Brandon and I talked about this earlier off air. And is he typically involved in the writing process? Because when I saw that it was written by,
he is, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So most of his movies, he's involved in writing them. Okay.
Yep.
Dude, more power to him, man. That's fucking awesome.
That's a lot of work. I mean,
so much work.
He's an artiste.
Yeah, dude. Good for him.
Oh, he loves the art of filmmaking, and it's definitely apparent in this film. Even in the ones that miss, like Tenet was not the greatest movie, but you can still see the style of filmmaking from Christopher Nolan in that one. But like I said, this film just knocked it out of the park for me.
Okay, Brandon, what do you got?
All right, yeah, and again, don't want to offend anybody here. I'm strictly going off of seeing the movie one time.
You're not going to get invited to movie night at Daniel's.
I am definitely that invite is being retracted as I give a 4.5 stars.
That's good. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
I thought you'd go lower.
The only because I understand the beauty of cinema. As much of a novice as I am at critiquing it, I can appreciate a good film. And again, the beauty of the cinematography, the casting, the storytelling, the dialogue, everything that goes into writing such a detailed screenplay of something that actually happened. But that 0.5 to me, and this is only the seeing it the one time, it's just how the story was all kind of put together. Just the first time I saw it, it was just a little bit difficult with everything bouncing around, going into it without having done any prior research. That's why I left the 0.5 out of there, because it's a little bit hard if you're going into it like myself as a complete dum-dum and you have no idea about the story. So you just have to immediately get with the flow and figure it out as it's going along. So it's a little difficult to follow that first time you're watching it, but it's still, great film. 4.5 out of 5, pretty damn good. 4.5 stars, Daniel, out of 5.
Yeah.
Stars.
Yeah.
You're still invited to my house.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, giving something anytime you give something a perfect score, you're basically saying like this is the best ever.
You can't do any better.
You can't do any better.
This is the peak.
So that's pretty crazy. I mean, this movie to me was as good as they come. I I definitely would have given it a lesser rating. I would have probably gone 4.5, maybe 4.25 even, just if I had seen it the first time, kind of like in your shoes, Brandon. After watching it the second time, being able to follow it a little better and understanding the storylines better, I think 4.75. Like if I'm thinking out of
4.75.
out of 10, like out of 10 stars, it's a 9.5. So
Yeah.
4.75 to me makes a lot of sense. Like it's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really fucking good.
So
And
out of the 2 times you watched it, what would you have changed to give you that extra 0.25, Josh?
I mean, on the in Star Wars, they start with like the yellow letters and it kind of gives you a little background and explains. Maybe if they had that for first time watchers.
No,
and you're
I don't hate it.
Yeah. They're like, in a country not very far away at all.
Not
It's
that
actually
long
the
ago,
country
really.
you live
Yeah.
in. There was a man. And it gives you, I don't know. But I think why like after I watched it again and everything was a little more crystal clear, and not to say that the first time I watched it, I was like, what is going on? I don't get it. But it took a while to get there. Yeah, it was almost like instead of honing in on the details, which he does such a good job at making the details count, that when you miss details, the movie's not going to be as good. So instead of the first 30 minutes trying to, putting my resources in my shitty little brain to what is going on, what am I trying to follow here, and focusing them on the facial expressions and the little hints of dialogue that really are written there for a reason and count. Those things are huge. So I don't know if that there's too much. And for a 3-hour movie to keep me engaged for the entire 3 hours is a fucking testament to how good this movie is, because my attention span sucks. I'm not a movie guy. And typically, like, you really got to work to keep my attention. And this one had it from the start and kept it for the full 3 hours. So I think it's as close to, I know perfect is a strong word.
Perfect heart. That's what I was going to say. I went 4.5. You went 4.75. Daniel gives it a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. Daniel, is it the best movie you've ever seen in your life?
No, easily
Okay.
no. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it the best movie of 2023? Absolutely 100%.
Okay. That's fair.
So what's all right? Should we die? What's your favorite movie? Can I ask real quick?
Yeah, might as well at this point. I mean, you give someone 5 out of 5, you have to know. Daniel, it's killing us. What's your best movie of all time?
Gosh, that's a loaded question.
Oh boy.
Because I like Star Wars. That's a classic. Episode 4 is a classic. I mean, I could name probably 20 movies off the top of my head, but I know
the Mario movie. It is the Mario movie.
No. I actually thought that. I actually did not like that movie.
Oh, boo! Boo!
All right, we'll review that next time on Movie Reviews Nobody Asked For.
0.5
Brash Plus exclusive.
Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's not going to be that low.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Daniel, for our movie review Nobody Asked For of Oppenheimer, or Oppenheimer as Americans call
the American version.
I will say this right now: it is going to win the Oscar. No doubt.
I concur.
Without a doubt. I haven't seen another movie from last year, but this one's going to fucking win for sure.
I will say this: I saw Barbie overrated.
Oh yeah, well, see, you'd probably have to pay me to watch that one, but who knows?
Yeah.
And one last thing before we jump, friendly reminder to not ask for us to do movies, because it's called Movie Reviews Nobody Asked For.
Yeah.
So if you ask us to do a movie,
if you ask
Daniel, this is for you. This is for all the listeners. If you ask us, we won't do it. We're contractually obligated not to do movies that people ask for.
I was going to ask to review Hard Ticket to Hawaii. That's a great 80s film.
We can't do it now.
80s film.
We can't do it.
Do yourself a favor.
I'll watch it though. I've never even heard of it, so
it's hilarious.
When we review Three Ninjas.
Just do a search on YouTube. You will not be disappointed.
Can we do Three Ninjas next? I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. Dude, I loved that
Might
movie.
as well do Three Ninjas Kick Back also.
Nope.
You know?
Now I asked for it. Can't do it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
guys.
true. Damn it. All right.
All right.
great
Till
seeing
next
you guys.
time. Hey, Daniel, thanks a lot, man. You really helped
Hey,
us out, and
as always.
that's a fun
I
one.
enjoyed talking with you guys about it.
All right, buddy.
It's a good movie.
Catch you
Later,
next
fellas.
time.
Peace.
Peace.
All right.